Hi, this is Roger, thanks for dropping by. In Growing Orchids with Roger today, we're going to do something that probably hasn't been done before. And it's going to sound boring, but there is a point. We're going to do a stock take. I bet you're all going, oh, I'm off. Bear with me. I'm going to have a look at all the things that I've got relating to looking after my orchids, on the grounds that I might need to replenish some stocks. But as I go through and look at all these items, we can have a chat about what I might use them for, and I'll use it as a possible reminder to you that you might need to replenish some of your stocks. And hopefully by looking at mine you'll stop and think, I need to get some of that. So that's the general idea. So let's get the camera down and start looking. Okay, what's prompted this is we're heading well into February and coming to the end of February. Traditionally, orchid growers look at March as a period of renewal. So it's not a bad time to think about repotting. And in addition to that, perhaps dividing the larger plants. Why is that a good time? Because the day lengths are getting up to the point that triggers growth. So quite a few of your orchids will be coming back into growth after perhaps a period of not necessarily dormancy, but pretty quiet due to the lower temperatures and the short day lengths. So March is a time when that sort of thing you start thinking about. So if we're going to do repotting and replenishments and dividing, let's have a think about what we might need. You're going to need media. Now your choice of media is down to you. I've got a selection. And on occasions I use all of it, but not all at once. So in here, this is the mainstay of a lot of my orchids, is small Orchiata bark. This is the small size, not the seedling size, this is small grade Orchiata bark. It's hard, it lasts a long time, and it's relatively clean out of the bag. Although the first couple of waterings will produce some slightly dirty water out the bottom of your pot. It's just dust off the bark. It's not harmful. So I've got quite a bit of that, and I'm happy to live with that amount. Next type of bark. This is a medium grade, but it does have some smaller pieces mixed in with it. We don't have a lot of that, we need some more. Yes, so this is another mainstay. I use a fair bit of this. Now I've got two shows coming up. One tomorrow, Saturday, where Burnham's will be, and then a week later, is it a week later? Maybe two, is the Wessex show. Now at the Wessex show, Burnham's will be there again, so I can see Burnham's tomorrow, yeah, and ask to get some bark bought to the Wessex show a week later. No postage, packing and all that sort of stuff, pay the guy in the car, job done. Also in addition to that, at Wessex will be Peter White, and he is Orchid Supplies on the internet. And he will have pots and chemicals and sprays and bark and other types of media. So over the next couple of weeks I can restock. I have the ability. I need more of that. Now this was bought because I needed a small amount and I wasn't in a position to be able to get a decent sized bag. So I bought that off of Burnham's in a sealed bag, not being able to see it. But I talked to Sarah and she said, we've used this stuff when we've run out of the other stuff or we're waiting for a delivery. It's okay, it works okay. And that is a sort of medium-ish, medium to small bark. And quite honestly, that is going in that bag down there, so that I can chuck that bag out. So that's one bag less. What else have we got then? We've done that one. This is grow stones. I can't get these anymore, so these are precious. Now I'm covered in dust. I'm not quite sure what they're made of, but they have a greasy feel. They help aerate compost, and they do soak in some water, so they do hold some moisture. So that's an addition. I wouldn't plant anything in that, but I do use it. That is peat, and it's real peat. The chances of me using that are next to zero now. That was got for a very specific purpose, but mixed in with an awful lot of grit, it makes a very good media for my pinguiculars, which are bog plants. So that's what that's there for. Not for orchids. And then in here is grit. That's the grit I would add to the peat. It's just, I think it's grit, but garden centre type grit. Very small grade. I also use that a lot for my bonsai mix. What have we got in here? In here we have leca. These are hard balls of clay, baked clay. And in most cases, when you get this stuff, it will soak up water and it will wick. And people plant orchids in that, with nothing else, just in that. And they have a reservoir in the bottom of the pot, and the water soaks up and stays moist. This stuff does not wick and does not hold water. It can get wet, but it doesn't hold water. It's a different type, I didn't know at the time. It's sat there without a use at the moment because I don't use that type of thing and I don't grow my orchids that way. But just there. Last but not least in here is a large grade of orchid bark. I can't get this actual bark anymore. It was a one-off. It's rock hard. It's like stone. You can hit it with a hammer and it doesn't break. It's perfect for going in the bottom of pots. It's brilliant for growing things like cattleyas. If you wanted to put some Vanda types in a media, this would be good for that. It doesn't break down, but it holds virtually no water. I use it for putting a few lumps in the bottom of pots as crocking, which is a bit of a waste, but I've got no other real use for it. But when it's gone, it's gone. But it's so hard, if I repot an orchid and there's some of this in the bottom of the pot, I reuse it. It's good stuff. So that's that. Then we've got our sphagnum moss. I'm going to get through a fair bit of that this year. I bought a large bale last year because I knew I was going to use a fair bit, but I will use more this year because some things are going to go in a moss, small bark and perlite mix that aren't in it now. And in addition to that, I'm going to be over the top with my repotting, and many will say you are being silly and wasting your money. But anything that's got moss in it that was planted early last year is going to get repotted annually, because this stuff does break down and it starts to turn acidic, and some of the things that I've got planted will not tolerate acidic media. So by refreshing it, it will stay fresh and buoyant and keep my roots healthy. It's a good media to try and get roots to grow again. Yeah, so just literally moss, damp moss does initiate root growth quite well. Right, so that's that. And then the only other thing is the perlite, and I buy it by the tub. This tub hasn't got too much left in it, but I have another one, so I don't need any more. looks like this. And the last thing you want to do is stir it up and create a dust cloud. The dust is incredibly harmful if you breathe it in. It will do serious damage to your lungs, so keep away from the dust. If necessary, sieve it, but unfortunately after a while you'll get some more dust, so you have to do it again. So perlite. The giant perlite sponge rock is something you can't get in the EU. I was going to say in the UK. I don't think you can get it anywhere in the EU now. The last time I had some of that, it was imported from the States. But I don't bother with it now because I didn't use it that much anyway. I use that mixed with small bark and broken up sphagnum moss for a mix that holds moisture quite well, doesn't dry out too fast, and is capable of regenerating roots quite well. So that's that. Now we'll have a look at some other stuff. Out of that lot, the only thing I needed was the medium bark. So I will be getting that over the next couple of weeks. As I say, the small bark I'm okay for, and if I find I'm running short, there are places I'll be going where I can get some. So it's not that I'm going to run out and go. Right, I'll shut down for now, get some more stuff out to look at, and we'll have a talk about something else. Right, the next thing is feed and supplements. Supplements are not an essential, and if you're not sure what you're doing with them, you can do more harm than good. So feed, I use the MSU formula. What's in there is not what it says on the label, but that bit is true. It came from a different manufacturer. So that's what my feed is made up of. There is something not on that list that is nonetheless in this feed, and that's sulfur. But there are sulfates in the ingredients, so there is indirect sulfur content in there. So that's my main staple food, the MSU formula. And it's the MSU formula in the States, depending on the company you're looking at, they will have different types of the same thing because they've adjusted the mix for different types of water. So if you've got pretty rough water, there is one mix, and if you've got almost pure water like I have, because I use RO water, then there's a mix for that, and that's what this is. This is the mix for rainwater and RO water, yeah, for almost pure water. Right, liquid seaweed, seaweed extract, whatever you want to call it. That's relatively new, but it's certainly new for this year. It's an additive that can help de-stress plants. There's hormones and things in there. It can promote root growth. So if you're trying to recover an orchid, get some of that in your water and it'll help with the hormones going into the plant to help it recover. It also settles it down from any stress or shock. Now it's a daft expression for a plant, but it actually does. So there's some good stuff in that. This is calcium nitrate. I use that in the growing season as a nitrogen boost because it contains nitrogen and calcium. And if you boost your nitrogen or you have a high nitrogen feed, it does pay to adjust the calcium upwards to balance with that higher nitrogen. So that as a combination is a booster. Yeah, it will help promote stronger, healthier growth in the growing season. There's not a lot of point in putting that in plants that aren't growing much, or during the winter when they haven't got the day length and possibly the temperatures as well. So that's a growing season only supplement. This hardly ever gets used. That's CalMag, calcium and magnesium supplement. So it just boosts. This has already got calcium and magnesium in it at a nice balanced level. That would increase those two elements along with some iron and a tiny bit of nitrogen. It can do some good. I rarely use it. when we get into the busy growing season, as I call it, and I start to use this to boost the nitrogen with the calcium to back it up, every couple of times I use that, I'll use that as an alternative. Yeah? And I don't use that in every feed. Yeah? So that comes round rather infrequently. So that's what I use to feed, and I use RO water that it goes in. Right, we're not done yet. I'll be back. Next we've got the dreaded chemicals, and if you're not into chemicals and you don't use them, you can miss this bit, but nonetheless there might be something in here that's useful. So first of all, we've got hydrogen peroxide 3%. In a small sprayer, this is good to go over your root system and the base of your plant when you repot, to get rid of any possible snails or slugs that might be lurking around the base of your plant and tangle up in the roots. And it also has a cleaning function because it can get rid of things like pathogens and spores and things, so it'll give your plant a general clean-up. Now, its function is a fizzing process. When it stops fizzing, it's finished, and at that point it should have turned to water. It's all in the name, you know. Hydrogen peroxide. So basically it fizzes and becomes water. Nonetheless, if I use it, I still rinse. I still rinse with clean water after I've used it. So that's what I use that for. Rubbing alcohol, again, has a cleaning function. You can use it to sterilise things, although bleach might be better, a bleach solution. But this will work for general purpose sterilisation processes. They use it in hospitals on their hands and things, so you know, it must be pretty good stuff. I use 70% rubbing alcohol for various things, so there's always some of that handy. Right. Cinnamon, no, we're not going to start cooking apple pie. That is there because this stuff has a remarkable property on wounded plant tissue, because it dries it out instantly, forms like a callus and prevents infections getting in. This is ideal to seal large roots that you've cut, or where you've cut canes off of a plant. Yeah? So it's a good sealant for where you've made wounds and cuts. It's good on apple pie as well. Right, now we get on to another cleaning stuff that you can't get this. You can't get this in the EU or in the UK. Physan 20. And having said in a video some considerable time ago that you can't get this in the EU, a friend sent some from Spain. The last I looked, Spain was in the EU. So again, some countries make their own flipping rules up despite being in the EU. Nonetheless, I can't get any more of that. Again, it works like bleach, but without the bleaching function that takes all the colour out of stuff. So again, it's a good cleaning function. When I cleaned the whole grow room and all of the shelves, I used this on all of the plastic, a solution, and I then took all the shelving outside in the garden with a sprayer, sprayed it all, wiped it off with a cloth, and it's lasted almost ever since, although the shelves look like they could do with a clean again. But I can't get any more, and I haven't found anything else that is as good. You can even mix that up in a diluted solution and spray your plants with it if you're starting to get mould and things like that on your plants. So it's good stuff, but I can't get any more of that. Next we get on to bugs and funguses and moulds and stuff. Funguses and moulds, you're going to want something like that. So I was holding one thing and reading another. You want something like that, yeah? And that is a systemic. So fights existing infections, protects new growth, and it says it shines leaves. And it's for things like in the garden: black spot, powdery mildew, rust. But basically it's a systemic fungicide. The choices in this arena are limited. Most of the good stuff's been banned. What's left is quite weak. It's nowhere near as good as it once was. However, some sort of systemic fungicide like this, if you discover fusarium in a plant, you need this sort of stuff. And you need to follow the instructions strictly with the number of treatments and the gap between them. And hopefully you'll stop the fusarium spreading. There's plenty of information on fusarium on the internet. I'm not going into that as a subject today. So we've got that. And then we've got practically all the other stuff is for bugs. And we'll all have quite strong chemicals in, I believe, apart from that. I'm not reading all the writing's too small. And that. If you don't like strong chemicals but you still have a bug issue, that's good stuff. But you will need to use it often with relatively small gaps, and you will need to keep at it. It's not systemic. It works by suffocation. It smothers the insects and stops things breathing so they die of suffocation. Yeah? And then the next lot hatch out a day after and you've got another outbreak and you need to do it again. But it does work if you keep at it. Follow the instructions. Don't think, oh, I'll mix it up twice as strong and it will do twice as good a job. No, it won't. Follow the instructions. And I would say that about all chemicals, really. There's safety factors built in to dilutions and things, so you know, a lot of research went into producing it and producing those dilution rates. Just follow the guidelines. But that is good stuff if you don't like chemicals. Bottom line is, it's a type of soapy wash. Yeah, so that might be, but I haven't even opened that yet. I don't get that many bugs nowadays. And then the others are systemic bug sprays that all basically do the same thing. They're all slightly different concoctions. The idea being, if you get an outbreak of bugs, give them a whack with that, and then a while later give them a whack with that, and if they're still around, give them a whack with that. Don't give them 3 whacks of that, because you can generate resistance. In a confined space like grow room, greenhouse type things, you can develop a resistant strain of a bug in your greenhouse that doesn't exist anywhere else necessarily. Yeah, so rotate, that's all I'm saying. And if you can get 2 of those as well, 2 different types of fungicides that are systemic, again, alternate, try and rotate if you can. So that's my chemical and cleaning and disinfecting arsenal. And the last time I was on about aphids on the Oncidium blooms over there, they got a blast with that one because that was the nearest one, not because it's the best. And if they come back again, they'll get a blast with one of those 2. They won't get the same one again, they'll get a different one. So that's the general idea with that sort of stuff and what I might be using it for. There's more. Now we're stating the obvious, aren't we? If you're going to start repotting, some of your orchids might need to go in a larger pot than the one they're in. Have you got said larger pot? Yeah? No good doing what I have done, allegedly. Get your orchid out of the pot, clean the roots off, and then go down in the shed, in my case, where most of my pots are, and find that I haven't got the size pot that I actually want. In some cases it went back in the pot it came out of because of that. Now, I don't use black pots to plant things in, but I do use black pots to put my clear pots inside of to stop getting algae on the media inside the pot. So I don't use them to plant things in, except for my pinguiculars, which are in black pots. But get yourself an assortment. you know, every time you go somewhere that sells pots, see if they've got a size that you haven't got. Excuse my dirty pots, I tend to clean them when I want them rather than when I put them away. That's just how I work. And if you use clay pots for anything, you know, do you need to get some more of those? But a selection, you know, you have a job to get those. Peter White sells those, whether he's still got any or not I don't know, but look how shallow they are and how wide they are and how much drainage and aeration there is. Those were purposefully designed for a very specific reason and ordered a couple of thousand or whatever and made for that job. They haven't been made since, so there's a very limited supply of those on the market. So have a think about what you're going to repot, what it's going to go in. You have to imagine sometimes, because until you get an orchid out of the pot, clean all the old media off and look at the root size and the base of the plant, you often don't know what pot it's going to go into. And sometimes it'll actually go in a smaller one than the one it was in. But having a good selection of many sizes under most circumstances mean you won't get caught out. So think about your pots. Air cone pots are good. Yeah, good for aeration around the base of the root. Yeah, they raise the media up inside to a degree. Put a bit of crocking on that and you will have good air around the base of your roots, and it will stop the base of the plant becoming soggy. So if you've got a plant with relatively shallow roots at the moment, but you're hoping to grow a better root system, these are a good idea. Yeah, because otherwise you're going to water the pot, the media from halfway down to the bottom is going to get wet and there's no roots in there to use it up, so it can become soggy and then the roots won't like it when they do eventually get there. So think about your pots. Have you got enough? Have you got a variety of sizes? Don't get caught out. It's very easy to do so. But these did all come out of here, didn't they? Reminds me of those dolls you get, I forget which country they came from, where you get one and you unscrew it and there's another one inside, smaller one, you unscrew it and there's a smaller one. It's like that. But anyway, check your pots, make sure you've got a good supply, and don't get caught short, because sometimes ordering pots, looking for them, finding the sizes you want and getting them to you can take a while. And you certainly don't want to start doing that after you've got your orchid out of its pot and cleaned the roots off. So there we go. I've forgotten something. What goes with pots? In my case, trays to stand them in so that they don't drip all over the pot below or the floor, as the floor doesn't actually belong to me and I don't want to mess it up. So these little plastic trays do the job very well. Yeah. There's another job they do quite well. If you've got a plant in a pot and you put it inside your black pot, you're not going to come out now, are you? Yes, you are. And when you put it in there, it sinks down too low. You can use those upside down to raise the pot inside a pot. Now I do that for quite a few of my plants that are in that type of pot. Because they're so wide, the black pot they go into is large, like what you see here, for instance. Yeah? And the pot goes right down inside, and once it's got a plant in it, it's difficult to get out. But if you put one of these in upside down, it stops it going down quite so far. And if you put one upside down and one the other way up on top of it, you'll lift it up even more. Now, believe it or not, that is the only one of those I've got spare, the little ones. I need to replenish those stocks. So, there we go. Have a think about your pots, and if you use the trays, think about your trays. Get yourself organised so that you don't get caught out when you start work. Now I'm going to try and get some of these. These are the normal larger ones. These are slightly smaller and slightly deeper. They don't take up quite so much room. So we might try and find that size, but I haven't managed to find them yet. But we definitely need some more of these. And the reason I haven't got anywhere near as many of these as I need is they got put on the feet of all my shelves so that the shelves slide around the floor without doing any damage, and the legs of the shelving don't dig into the surface of the floor. There's dozens of these all around the floor doing their job, but it means I haven't got many for small pots. So I end up often having to use a larger one because I'm out of these. So far, what stocks are we replenishing for Roger's upcoming season? We need some medium bark and we need some little trays. So I'm already pretty well stocked up, aren't I? I tend to think about replenishing stocks as a stock starts to get low, rather than wait for it to run out, with one exception in this case. The medium bark is very low, but I don't really need it just yet. I'm going to need it in a couple of weeks, and in a couple of weeks I will have replenished that stock. So there we go. Have a think about what your growing season consists of and what you are going to need to do it, and then start thinking about what you want, where you're going to get it from. Get it ordered or go and get it yourself, whatever you're going to do, but get it all planned in so that you don't end up in a panic or run out of stuff at a critical time. So there we go. Hope you've enjoyed that. Bit different. I don't think anybody else has had a go at that sort of thing before, and I'll see you next time. Oh, just to mention, today is Friday. Video tomorrow, if there is one, will be a collection of stills from the Orchid show that I'm going to go to, and then the Sunday chat I haven't recorded yet, and I am going to record it early Sunday morning, because although Hannah will be here, she'll put her headphones on and go and do something else while I do that, so we will have the Sunday chat. And the reason I've delayed it is I'd like to have a chat about the show I went to on Saturday. Well, if I record it early I can't do that, can I? So that's the reason for actually doing it on Sunday, but as a consequence it might be a relatively short one, but it will be there. That's the important thing. That's one of the major changes I proposed for this channel, is to make sure the Sunday chat is always on the Sunday. It is the chatty one, even if there aren't any others, or not many. So there we go. Thanks for dropping by. Don't forget, do the old like, do the old subscribe if you're not already subscribed. And don't forget, if perhaps you think others might want to have a look at this video, share the video on other social media platforms. It's all good stuff, and I'll see you next time.